If you want to end the year getting in front of more people, opening up new opportunities, and being seen as the go to in your industry, you are going to love this episode. I'm giving you two clear and very specific action steps you can start taking ASAP to truly transform the way you're perceived online. And if this sounds dramatic, I am dramatic, but this is dramatic too, like totally game changer. So listen in. Do you want to be seen as the go-to in your industry, get more sales, easily attract new opportunities, but feel overlooked online? If so, you are in the right place. Hey, I'm Eugenia, but you can call me E. I'm a marketing strategist, a wife, and a new mom. I learned the secret of how to be seen as an authority and have people think of you for new opportunities and more clients. If you're ready to get clear on what makes your personal brand unique, build a magnetic presence online, and get more eyes on your business, this is your next move. Well, this has been interesting. In my previous episode, I talked about how I was ready to give birth and I was going to go on maternity leave. And it turns out that when that episode was released, that was the same day that I gave birth because my baby came a week early. And so that Monday before, so I pre-record my episodes and I had that schedule ready to go for that week's podcast episode, right? Like the week that my baby was born, a little bit ahead of time. I spent that Monday writing so many outlines. And the next day on Tuesday, I was going to record all of those episodes and then basically spend that week setting up my podcast. So there would be a new podcast episode released every Tuesday while I was on maternity leave. And also I had completely unrealistic expectations about maternity leave. This is my first baby, so please bear with me. But that's a story for another day. I really thought that I would be able as a solopreneur to batch my content and have no visible gaps or interruptions. Maybe for baby number 2, I'll be able to do that. But for this one, didn't work out that way. So anyways, back to that Monday, I finish my outlines. I go to Walmart to get tubes, which is my favorite snack in the world. And they didn't have it, by the way. So I go back home, snackless, and I go to bed. And I realize that I haven't felt the baby in a little while. This baby, mind you, he has been super active throughout the whole pregnancy. So I just had this gut feeling that something was wrong. And at that day, I was staying at my brother's because he has incredible equipment to record and, everything podcast production wise is easier there. So I was staying at his house. So I texted my sister-in-law because I was in a room. I texted her. And I asked her to please wake up my brother because I wanted to go to the hospital. So we leave for the hospital. I text my husband like, hey, don't worry. It's probably nothing. I'm just on my way to the hospital. Of course, he left immediately. So I get to the hospital and fast forward, they tell me we're going to have to induce you. So almost 24 hours later, Ethan Jordan was born. And even talking about this now feels surreal. It feels like a million years ago. Like I cannot imagine my life before my son was with us. Like I don't even know what I was doing with my days. And not from a place of productivity, but just like purpose and just like the amount of love and how good he fits with our family. It's crazy. But back to today, Ethan is already 4 months old. He's super active and he's doing really so good. I'm in love with my baby and I am excited to see him grow. And he has the best personality. Like he laughs so easily. I feel like he's my husband and I's, like our son, in the way that he just loves to laugh and have a good time. But he also is feisty. Just letting you know. He's feisty. He's a spirited baby. If you've read the Baby Whisperer book, he's more of on the spirited side. So this means, this little pause, 4-month pause, means that I've had so many hours, including night feedings, of course, to think about the future of the podcast. How can I keep providing you with amazing content that truly helps you build your personal brand, helps you get seen, recognized, invited to places, opens opportunities, and gets you paying clients. Please and thank you. So one thing constantly in my mind was, what does my Ava want? Because in my mind, I call you Ava. And I had this clarity, and I also had a lot of conversations about how so many of you have this desire to step into a bigger leadership role in your business. Like, you have been serving and you've been doing and getting results. You are an expert, and that's amazing. But now you're ready to be seen as an authority because you want your brand to be a platform. You want to be on stages. You want to get more leads with ease. You're ready to get visible, and I am so ready to help you get there. And there's a couple of elements to that, but there are two main changes and different approaches that you need to make both internally and externally. Internally, you need to start behaving like a leader. And I don't want to oversimplify it like, oh, just act like a leader. There you go, that's it. But really, it is deeper than that. You need to develop a new standard for yourself. You need to be in congruence with how you live your life and how you are perceived by others. Because in order to feel comfortable with the change or stepping up to a more visible role as an entrepreneur, you really need to feel like it's real. I see so many entrepreneurs, they're ready for a bigger visibility role, but they have, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome, because that word that gets overused. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not really sure if that's imposter syndrome, but it just feels uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable to speak on stages, to speak to a larger crowd, to even state that you want those things, that you want collaborations, that you want to grow your community. It might not feel 100% natural. And while there's an element of this is normal as you grow, like you have to also expand your capacity for emotional capacity for this type of transformation, there is also an intentionality in being in coherence with what you say you want to be, leader and influential and helping more people. You are on a mission, and who you are when no one's watching. You need to feel like it's real. And I'm not talking about superficial like manifestation and blah 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 blah. Like, no, I'm talking about being congruent, like behaving like the person that already has those things, because that's gonna make you perform at a better capacity because you feel comfortable. You feel like you belong in those spaces. So how do you do this, right? How do you start behaving like a leader? And again, I want to give you the quick definition of what is a leader. And this is a person changing the way that everyone's going to a different destination. Everyone's going one place. The leader says, hey, no, let's go this other place. Because of that, because it involves change, leading involves changing somehow, a leader needs the emotional capacity to support their people, because you are asking them to change. That is an emotional process. So you need to be emotionally strong in order to take them with you. And also a leader needs to be one step ahead, not necessarily all the way through the race completed, sitting in the high horse like, no, but you do need to be one step ahead. So because of that step ahead, because you've achieved that, your habits, your day-to-day, they need to match that next step. So journal. I love journaling. It is completely underrated. Journal about how does that version of you behave. What are some habits that you need to develop in private to be able to show up more powerfully in public? For me, and I think really for 80% of you, exercise needs to become a non-negotiable. Like, your physical body needs to carry the energy, needs to give you the energy, needs to be able to process anxiety. Your physical body needs to step up. Like, whatever you're doing physically, stepping it up a notch is going to help you stand stronger in your leadership. So find that habit and then stop letting yourself off the hook. And this is not about being toxic positivity and ignoring everything bad that's happening and just being unkind to yourself. You need to respect your processes, but you also need to have the capacity to do what you said you would do, because we go back to that congruence. You need to be able to do the things you said you were going to do. And that is a muscle. It is developed because I'm the first one with food that I say I'm going to start eating healthy on Monday, and by Wednesday I'm stuffing my face with brownies or tubes. Whatever I have available. Like that, for example, in these seasons, I'm like, no, I need to take control of my eating habits. Not because of restriction, and I don't want to get into a whole other conversation about eating behaviors, but because for me, it was getting to be out of alignment with what I was calling people to be in terms of don't get yourself off the hook, live in congruency, call yourself to that best version of yourself or that next best version. So to me, taking control of my physical body has been huge. So that's why I love combining that habit of journaling with being very intentional about not letting yourself off the hook. So that's in terms of the internal change. Then externally, you need to start speaking like a leader. Stop speaking like the expert. And this is going to be so uncomfortable. And yes, this is a bit more technical. But in order to get more visible for the right reasons and be positioned in the right way, some things about your communication, they need to be up-leveled. They need to be fine-tuned. Because by now, you're probably used to expert territory, right? You are used to providing value, giving amazing advice, knowing way more than your niche, quote unquote. But those things don't automatically translate into the way others perceive you. Just providing value is not enough if you want to be a leader. There is such a huge difference between speaking like an expert and speaking like a leader. An expert gets a thought and makes a long Instagram post or sends a random email just with thoughts and advice and tips, like you are just providing value, right? But when you look at the whole narrative, it feels disconnected. Like it doesn't feel like it's part of a bigger story. So here, I want you to get clear on your unique perspective. That's your POV, point of view. What's that point of view when it comes to your industry or your area of expertise? And I also call this your brand truths. These are the things that are true for your brand and for your leadership. So here we move out of how-to content or random rants that feel preachy and more into being memorable, clear. Doesn't mean that you're not going to say how to do something or provide a tutorial. Not at all. That's needed, but that cannot be the anchor of your communication anymore. You don't have to reinvent the wheel either, right? But you need to stand for something and say it over and over and over again and say it in so many ways in your content, especially in your long form content, which takes me to my next point, which is where you say it. So the first point is what you say. Stop speaking like an expert. Start speaking like a leader. Have a cohesive narrative, your brand truth, your POV, the things that you believe in, and everything comes from those truths. And then you have to pay attention to where you say those things. You need to start creating long form content consistently. I'm sorry, period. In the end, you need, whether it's a podcast, your newsletter, you can have a newsletter on LinkedIn if you want, a blog, YouTube, like a radio show. You need to be able to articulate your ideas in a long form capacity. Instagram alone, like your posts, that is not going to cut it if you want to be seen as a leader. Or maybe that podcast where you talk about everything under the sun, like you talk about your travel plans and you talk about motherhood tips and you talk about your fitness routine. Unless there's a little caveat here, if you're, let's say, a huge lifestyle influencer and your lifestyle is the reason people follow you, sure, I would see a point in having that type of podcast. But even those huge lifestyle influencers, they end up having a POV and having a podcast that approaches topics and conversations from a specific perspective. Even if their lifestyle then end up talking a lot about health or a lot about parenthood or a lot about business. Like they define their perspectives. So to wrap it up, I want to leave you today with these 2 changes. Listen to this episode again in 2.5 if you want, because I really want you to marinate in these ideas. First, develop your leadership habits, and I highly recommend ramping up your exercise routine, and don't let yourself off the hook. And then start speaking like a leader. Focus on a clear and unique POV and start creating long-form content yesterday. You need to put it out, but it cannot be random. It needs to be aligned. In any case, I am getting ready to start taking coaching clients again for brand positioning audit. We are going to look at your positioning, your messaging, your content, your voice to make sure we identify the gaps that are holding your presence back. Because that's so important. You need to know what's wrong and you need to know how to address it. I am so over coaching calls that end with a bunch of inspiration and a bunch of ideas, but you're like, okay, but what do I do? Like, I want to make it super clear, super strategic for you, and I want to give you examples on how to apply those points. So I am really excited. Please sign up for the waitlist, because the waitlist is going to receive the best early bird pricing, which you don't want to miss. And let's work together this year. Let's get a plan. Let's figure it out. Let's help you step up into that leadership role. Let's make the online space your platform so your message can be amplified, your leads can come easily, you can be seen as the authority in your space. I can't wait to see you back here really soon. I hope you loved today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and send it to someone who's ready to be seen as the go-to in their industry? Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I love reading your comments. They remind me of those little notes you would send your friends in high school, you know? Okay, see you back here soon with the next episode. Un beso.